Welcome to day 4. I'm Kevin Blake Weldon, and we are going to talk about the creative workshop. We're going to talk about thinking into results. Did you know that everything is created twice? It's first created in the mind, and then it's created in reality. And I'm going to share some examples of things that have personally happened to me that are pretty unbelievable. It's truly magical when you watch things happen. I'm going to share a story with you first. We're going to go back to 2007. I had I'd been out of Nashville for a few years, and I'd started my own entertainment company. And this was an amazing story in itself, but we're not going to get into all the details of that. But just suffice it to say, I came up with a new way to make a living with my music, and that was writing comedy, parody, outdoor, funny hunting songs. And it was a lot of fun. In 2007, I was performing at a show in Jackson, Mississippi. The day before the event, a friend of mine and I were out riding around Jackson, Mississippi, and we passed by this power sports store. It's a place that sold, like ATVs, four-wheelers, off-road vehicles, things like that. And sitting out in this parking lot was this little miniature-looking van, almost like a Scooby-Doo mobile, this little small. It was actually a Daihatsu Hi-Jet that was actually brought over from Japan. And it was drab green, and it was sitting out in this parking lot, and it had this hunting rack welded to the top with a little ladder that went up to the top of this rack. And it had some camouflage netting around it. It had a couple of boat seats up there. And what they were doing is they were importing these vehicles over, these little mini trucks and these little minivans, and they were four-wheel drive, so they were turning them into hunting vehicles. Well, I was with a friend of mine, and I saw this van. I said, dude, let's pull over. I want to take a look at this thing. So we pulled over, we pulled into the parking lot, we got out and we looked at this. I'm like, man, this would be the perfect Bad Bob and Jimmy mobile. Now, Bad Bob and Jimmy was the name of my alter ego, my comedy parody name that I went by to do my funny music, because I never wanted to be considered a Cletus T. Judd or Weird Al Yankovic, and I wanted to keep my serious music and my comedy music separate. So I just created this persona called Jimmy Huckleberry, and I had the name Bad Bob and Jimmy as what I went by with my funny hunting songs. Now, when I saw this van, I'm thinking this would be the perfect Bad Bob and Jimmy mobile. And I could visualize, I could see this thing in my imagination of having camouflage wrapping on it. I could see my logo on the side, and I could see myself on top of this hunting rack performing and playing my songs. I even visualized a flat screen TV hanging from the side. And I thought this would be a great portable stage, and I could actually pull this thing into to these hunting shows that I go to. I could load all of my merchandise into the back. I could put my videos on the screen, and I could sing off the top, and this would just be awesome. And I'm sitting there telling my friend this, and I'm getting all excited about it. It's pretty cool. Well, fast forward to the next day. We're at this hunting show in Jackson, Mississippi. I'm performing. I'm selling CDs. And after a couple of hours, I decided it was time to take a break. So I decided to walk around the expo and look at some of the other vendors and booths that were there. I get a couple of aisles over from our booth, and I hear my music playing. I'm like, that's my songs playing. And so I walked over, and I saw this Outdoor Power Sports Plus dealership had a booth there. And they had one of their little mini hunting trucks there pulled inside the building. And they had the doors opened up, and they purchased one of my CDs, and they were playing my songs in this little truck. And I'm like, this is so cool. I said, you guys are the place that have that little green, drab green van sitting on your parking lot. I said, yeah. I said, man, I can just see that as the perfect Bad Bob and Jimmy mobile for what I'm doing. And would you guys be interested in sponsoring me? And they said, you know what? We absolutely love your music. Why don't you stop by and see us on Monday when the show is over, and let's talk about it. So on Monday, I found myself, in the office of the owner of this dealership, and we start talking about my music. They wound up investing over $125,000 into my music business. They purchased half of my entertainment company, and they sponsored me with that little green van for $1 a month. And let me show you what happened. All right, I want you guys to take a look at this. This is me at the Power Sports dealership, and this is seriously 3 weeks from the moment that I saw that green van on that lot. Exactly what I had envisioned in my mind, and here it is. So when we say that everything is created twice, when we say if you can hold it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand, this is proof of what happens. Now, if you would have told me before, I would have said no way. But literally the very next day after seeing that and having this idea, I meet the very people. How did that happen? Coincidence? Some people may say it is. I don't believe so. I believe that what we are seeking is seeking us. I believe that when we get emotionally involved in something, we can actually create the very things that we are imagining in our mind. Now, how many of you, and there's a lot of you, I'm sure, that are entrepreneurs that own your own business, you've probably done something similar. Now, we call this an unconscious competence because I didn't really understand these laws back then. I didn't understand that this was something that you could even do. All I knew is that I saw this man, I got this great idea, and I started seeing it in my mind with this thing having a lift kit put on it and have some fancy wheels and having it camouflage wrapped and have my logo on it. And I could see myself sitting up on top. Now, here's what you don't see. We actually had a 42-inch plasma flat screen that was mounted to the side of that van that we actually showed my music videos on. The back door opens up and I put boxes of t-shirts and boxes of CDs, a table and a couple of chairs. They gave me a trailer. And another week after this, I actually had this thing loaded up and I was on my way to Jacksonville, Florida, where I backed this thing off the trailer and I drove it into the expo center, and it was my portable stage and my portable booth. And I was selling thousands of dollars worth of my comedy music from my portable booth, from this little buggy right here. How does this happen? If you can hold it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. Like I said, if you'd have told me before, I would have thought there's no way that this could ever really happen. But I got emotionally involved and all of the things just lined up for this to become a reality. So everything is created twice. The chair that I'm sitting in, the guitars back here, you know, your home, everything that we have, the cell phone, everything has been created twice. Somebody had to think about it first and start getting an idea of how they could make it happen. And then it happened. But here's what happens to most people. Most people think they have to know how something is going to happen before they'll move forward with it. Me, I didn't know how to make this happen. You know, I guess I probably could have gone and knocked on their door, but it all worked out perfectly. And the next thing you know, not even a month later, I'm at a show in Jacksonville, Florida, performing from this very, very idea that I had. That was only an idea, an image in my mind, not 4 weeks earlier. So we want you to understand that everything is created twice. And when you understand this, and when you start to understand these universal laws and truths, you are going to get excited because you're going to start to imagine the possibilities of what could happen if this really were the way things are, if this is really how we're created, if we really do have the ability to do this. Now listen, there are all kinds of things that have been invented, but they all started in the mind. Something else that's really important to talk about is when JFK decided that they were going to send a man to the moon. This is back in the early 1960s, and he asked Wernher von Braun, what would we need to send a man to the moon? And Wernher von Braun simply said, the will to do it. Now listen, they didn't have the technology. They didn't have any idea how it was going to happen. All they know is that they made the decision. They saw it in their mind. They got this idea of putting a rocket in space and going to the moon. And even though they didn't have the technology, they didn't know how it was going to happen. Over the next few years, the technology was invented. The very things were attracted to this that helped make this a reality. The same thing with this little vehicle right here. And you can do the same thing with your hopes and with your dreams and with your visions, with your ideas. So we want you to understand that this is how it works. Now, if you don't believe it, you're right. If you do believe it, you're right. Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. We just want you to open up your mind to the possibility that you truly can create the very things that you want. Listen, you wouldn't have a dream in your heart if there wasn't a way for you to accomplish that. You know, the universe or God doesn't play tricks on people. He doesn't give you this desire in your heart with no way to get there. You may not know what that way is, and you may not know how it's going to happen, but I'm here to tell you, I've seen it happen so many times that when you get emotionally attached to an idea, you are going to find things start to fall into place as you move forward. Now, Steve Jobs says we can't connect the dots looking forward, but we can connect the dots looking back. Now, once this happened, I remember all the different steps that led up to this very moment right here. I knew the things, you know, looking back. But when I first saw that van in the parking lot, I didn't know how I was going to make this happen last summer. My oldest daughter, Sarah, loves to go to Casperson Beach in just outside of Tampa, Florida, a little place called Venice Beach. And there's a beach down there that's got a lot of fossils and shark's teeth, and Sarah loves to go find shark's teeth. And we plan every summer to go and spend 3 or 4 days looking for shark's teeth at Casperson Beach. Well, this past summer, Sarah was in Austin and she fell off of a rock climbing wall and sprained her ankle real bad. I mean, so bad that she couldn't put any weight on it. Well, the problem is not a week later, we had this trip already planned. It's already paid for and everything's ready to go. But she can't walk. From where we park the vehicle to where we find the shark's teeth, it's over a mile walk. And I don't know if you've been on the beach before, but walking in the sand, you know, it's not good if you've got a sprained ankle. Sarah's worried that she's not going to be able to make the trip. And I said, listen, you know, we love this. We look forward to it every year. Let's go ahead and go. So it was already paid for. So we get down there, we get out to the beach, and Sarah can't put any weight at all on her foot. And we've literally got over a mile to walk to get down to this location. So we're struggling to figure out how we're going to make this and salvage this trip. So I decided to load her up on my shoulders and I'm going to walk her down the beach. Well, you know, Sarah's 5'7" and weighs about 130 pounds, and I'm in pretty good shape. But after about 150 yards or so, I'm literally exhausted and worn out. I'm like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to, I didn't tell her this, but there's no way I'm going to be able to get my daughter down this beach. So I put her, put her down, and we decided we would just look around right there. We found a few, but not near what was down about a mile away. So we're starting to try to brainstorm about how we could get down this beach. We didn't know how it was going to happen, but we knew we had a desire to get down the beach. So we started thinking, what could we do? So we're thinking, well, maybe we could go to Walmart and buy, a kayak and a rope, and I can pull you down the beach. We started thinking about that, but the waves are really big, and we knew that it was probably just going to wash us up onto the beach, and it'd be just an absolute nightmare trying to get down there. And so we're kind of discouraged, but we still had this desire to make this happen. We decided to go back to the hotel and try to brainstorm. We go to Walmart, we find some things that we think might work, and the next morning we decide to sleep in because the tide is going to be high. So Sarah decides, let's go for a drive, Dad. Let's go check out some of the other beaches. Well, on this route, there's several different times that I wanted to stop and take pictures, and Sarah kept saying, no, Dad, let's go on down here. Let's go on down here. One turn after another. I'm wanting to turn here. She says, no, let's turn here. Long story short, we get to Sarasota Beach, and we are getting ready to turn into one of the beach entrances. And Dad said, no, Sarah said, Dad, let's go down one more. So we go down one more. We turn in, and I'm getting ready to turn down this one aisle. She goes, no, Dad, you can't turn down that aisle. It's a one-way. So we have to go back to the next aisle. We get to the next aisle. Well, here's a car coming the wrong way, so we can't go there. We got to go down 2 more, and we finally make a left. We go down. We're looking for a place to park. We come around the corner, and right out in the wide open is this contraption that I didn't even know existed. And I'm like, Sarah, what is that? So we stopped. Guys, you're going to freak out when you see this. We park the car, we get out, and this is what we find. I didn't even know anything like this existed. Right out in the wide open, unattended, nobody around, was this contraption right here with these big inflatable wheels. This was custom made to help handicapped and disabled people get out onto the beach. And we are, like I said, I didn't even know that anything like this existed. And I started thinking about all of the different things that happened to even get us to this location. We get out, we take a look at this, and we're like, oh my gosh. I put Sarah in it. I push her out on the beach. We get out on the sand, and I can actually push her with one hand. And I'm like, Sarah, this is absolutely a miracle. Didn't even know anything like this existed. Well, now the problem is how are we going to get this in our rent car? Because we're, 15 miles away from Casperson Beach where the shark's teeth are at. So we start looking at this thing, and I'm thinking, what, we may have to go and rent a trailer or rent a U-Haul truck or something to get down there. And I'm willing to do that to get my daughter out to look for the shark's teeth. Well, as I get down and start examining this thing, I realize that there's cotter pins that hold these wheels on, and I started taking this thing apart. I get the wheels off. It's still too big to fit in the trunk or the back seat, and we've tried everything. Then I get to looking, and I realize that the handles and the foot extension and the armrests all come off of this little contraption. I took this thing apart. I loaded up into the car. We got down to Casperson Beach. We took it out of the car, assembled it, and we got Sarah out onto the beach. And we were able to have the most unbelievable shark's tooth trip that we've ever had. We found, I think, over 3,000 shark's teeth over the next couple of days. And it's all because we found this little contraption right here. Let me show you another picture real quick. So here we are, and here's Sarah out in this prime location. And like I said, we literally found over 3,000 shark's teeth, and it was one of the most memorable trips we've ever had. And I still, to this day, every time I look at this picture, I'm truly amazed. We had no idea that anything like this even existed, but we had a burning desire for an end result. And that end result was for us to enjoy our trip together. And all the different things that came about to lead us to the point where we found that contraption and we're able to get it loaded up still just blows me away. Now, I've seen this happen so many times. I'm not surprised, but it's still amazing to see things like this happen. So we just want you to understand that there is way more going on within us than we understand. And when you finally understand how the mind works and how we are created and what we're truly capable of doing, and you know that the only thing that's keeping you from living the life that you want are the own limitations that you're placing on yourself and your own beliefs. When you understand that, when you understand that you truly do have the power to create the very life, circumstances, and results that you want, when you understand that, you get extremely excited. And then you realize that you don't have to live the way you've been living with the results that you've been living anymore unless that's truly what you want. Now we're going to talk a little bit about how we do this. First of all, we've got to believe that it's possible. We have to allow for the possibility that there might just be some things that we don't understand. And in all of our getting, we're supposed to get understanding. You know, that's been taught to me since I was a little kid. In all of your getting, get understanding. Because when you understand how the mind works, and you understand that you truly can create the things that you want, it does get very exciting. Now we're going to focus on the six mental faculties, the higher faculties. Now this is something that's not taught in schools. Your higher mental faculties, your imagination first and foremost, your perception, the will, reason, intuition, and memory. These are our higher mental faculties. These are how you want to live your life. You don't want to live your life based on the five senses. You know, that's basically survival mode. Animals have the five senses. What separates us from the animal kingdom are the higher mental faculties. And for me, the most important one is imagination, because the imagination is where you create. That's where you get these ideas. Now, where these ideas come from, that's another discussion for another day. Where do they come from? They come from the universe, infinite intelligence, God. You know, everybody's got their own belief, but here's the thing that we know: they come from somewhere, and they just enter into our thinking, into our mind. And the imagination can be very powerful if you learn how to really use it. The thing is when we're kids, we have very vivid imaginations, and we use it all the time. But as we start to get a little bit older, you know, we get told to stop living in la la land, quit daydreaming. You know, we are told that we have to do certain things a certain way, and we a lot of times we get ridiculed or we get put down for using the imagination, and so that's basically taken away from us. And then people get to the point where they don't think that they're creative. You know, how many people do you know? You may even think that you're not creative, but the truth is that we are all creative, and we are creating every day. The very results that you're getting in your life, you are creating those. And if you don't know that you're doing that, you're basically creating it by default. So the results that you have in your life right now, you created these. You created these with your thoughts. Because again, everything is created twice. It's first created in the mind, and then it's created in reality. And if you don't understand that, this is what you need to understand. If you want to think this is all just a bunch of mumbo jumbo, that's your right, that's your choice. But why don't you just stay open to the possibility that there might be something to this? Get on this journey, get excited, get curious. Natalie and I did, and everything started to change. Now, a lot of the things that I did in the past, I did as an unconscious competent. I didn't realize that I could actually do that on purpose. I was thinking, what a coincidence. But listen, it's not just a coincidence. And since then, I've proven it time and time and time again. So we really want to focus on using our higher mental faculties, especially the imagination. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time that you actually used your imagination? That you actually gave yourself permission to use your imagination? Let me ask you something. Did you know that you could ask yourself for ideas? And you may know that, but I would encourage you, if there's something that you're struggling with, if there's something in your business, start asking yourself for ideas and pay attention to what comes into your mind. You're going to start to get ideas. And when you get these ideas, make sure you write them down. We've all heard, and maybe you haven't, but, ideas are like slippery fish. If you don't gaff them with a pen, they're back out into the ocean and gone forever. So when you get an idea, write it down. It may not be a great idea, but then again, it might. If you get in the habit of writing your ideas down, you just never know what you're going to come up with. And if you start asking yourself questions about how you can do things, your imagination is going to kick in. And a lot of times you're going to come up with the very idea that is going to turn into a lifesaver for you. So think about that. What I want to get into next is we're going to talk a little bit about Napoleon Hill and the book Think and Grow Rich. Now, Think and Grow Rich is the book that absolutely transformed Bob Proctor's life when he was first given the copy back in 1961. So we're going to talk about Think and Grow Rich, and I want to share a couple of things with you. If you don't have this book, Think and Grow Rich, Natalie and I would recommend that you get this. This is from Napoleon Hill. This is the book that started the personal development industry. Earl Nightingale, who mentored Bob Proctor, was actually mentored by Napoleon Hill. And in the book, it says, if you're one of those that believe hard work and honesty alone will bring you riches, you must perish that thought. It is not true. Riches, when they come in huge quantities, are never the result of hard work. Riches come, if they come at all, in response to definite demands based upon the application of definite principles and not by chance or luck. Now, this is a book that Bob Proctor received in 1961, and he's been studying it ever since. And we would highly recommend that you pick up a copy of Think and Grow Rich. All right, the next thing we'd like to do is we'd like to talk about goals. And for that, we're going to bring Natalie on to talk about goals. See y'all. Welcome Natalie back.
There are 3 types of goals to share with you today, and this is very, very important. Setting the wrong goal is why a lot of people are not motivated in achieving these goals. So, example, goal A is basically setting a goal that you've done before. Think of a lot of entrepreneurs that keep using the same strategies, same ideas. They keep re-implementing them into their business over and over again as their goal. Or maybe they've already have in the past increased their sales by 10-20% and they decide to do it again and set that as a goal. Or maybe you're that person that's lost 10 pounds before and now you set a goal to lose 10 pounds again. Those are not inspiring goals. So goal A, not something that we want. With goal B, you do something different, but you're looking at your current circumstance and you're setting a goal based on what you think you can do, which is always limited. When you look at your current circumstances, you're always looking at it from a very limited point of view. And you're going after something that you think you can do. And this does not permit you to stretch. And a goal should be based on stretching, because as you're stretching for more, it's who you become in the process of achieving more that you're going to feel so alive and so fulfilled. So for that reason, goal B, not recommended. This is the beautiful C goal. This is the fantasy. This is the dream. This is the massive vision that 97% of the population reject daily because they don't believe it's possible. Hear me out. You would not have the vision in your mind if you did not have the ability to do it. Again, you would not have the vision in your mind if you did not have the ability to do it. This is powerful, guys. See, I'm a genius, you're a genius, we're all geniuses. Now, I'm not the same genius as Einstein because he saw equations and numbers as his vision, and I definitely don't see that. I see something much, much different, but still absolutely incredible for me. I only saw these visions, though, when I permitted myself to simply ask, what if Bob was right? The reason why people reject their fantasy life, their dream, is that we've been brought up that if we don't know how to connect the dots to the goal, then we shouldn't be going after that goal. But as an entrepreneur, ask yourself, how many times have you taken a leap of faith and you weren't too sure, right? You weren't too sure. You were walking towards the unknown. But there's a difference between educated faith and blind faith. Because with blind faith, you're walking the unknown. And because you don't understand what is happening to your mind and you don't have control over your mind, your emotions are a real roller coaster. And because emotions controls your behavior, your attitude, and ultimately your results, then your results are very much up and down as well. But with educated faith is what Bob Proctor teaches. Because with educated faith, you control your thoughts, which controls your emotions, and ultimately you can control your results. And your creative power becomes stronger and stronger.
Awesome. Thanks, Natalie. Well, listen, we're just about to wrap it up for the creative workshop, but I have one more thing to ask you. If you could do anything that you want to do, if you could create the life that you want, what would that look like? What would you love to do? Give yourself permission to use your imagination to start coming up with new ideas and new ways to create the very life that you want. Have fun with it. Expect crazy stuff to happen, and it will. But you've got to get emotionally connected to the very things that you want. And again, get that calm mind, and then just start asking yourself questions. What would you do? How can you do something? Give me some ideas, and make sure that you write them down, because you're going to get ideas. Some of them are going to be good. Some are going to be great. Some are going to be not so great. I get ideas all the time, but write them down. What if there's more to this than what we ever believed possible? What if there is? Have fun with it, because everything can change when you use your imagination. Get creative. We all have the creative ability. If you've never used it, start using it now. Write these things down. Start asking yourself questions. And again, have fun with it. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.